Hello, greetings from Cultivate Communications. I'm Marianne Long, your host for this presentation. Today we are diving into solutions to common go-to-market problems faced by medical device companies. Specifically, we are going to provide you with the insights that will help you to tell a very compelling story about how your products solve a big problem and how we can positively impact patient care. We will cover how to reach and impress the often elusive target audience in the MedTech space, the payers. And today we welcome our guest speaker, Matthew Tucker. He's an expert and coach to startups, marketing executives, and commercial officers at MedTech companies. Welcome, Matthew.
Hey, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Very excited to be here. Yeah. I'm the chief commercial officer. I'm a board member at a company called Nightwear, which is a medical device company. But I do a huge amount of consulting with startups, mid-sized companies in med device as well. And, overall, I think I've led about 30 different devices or drugs in nearly every product category or clinical specialty that you can think of. And probably what's most important about this presentation, I've presented to any type of insurer, payer, or product committee that you can think of, from large to regional to government spaces. But the thing that's a little bit unique is it took me taking a role in innovation at a large Blues plan in Western PA called Highmark Health for me to really understand why some of my presentations in the past just didn't land the way I expected them to. And I can look back and think about the first 15, 18 years of my career about situations where I had walked out of meetings with commercial payers, medical centers, product committees, and thinking that I had landed the presentation, but feeling a vibe that it just didn't go better. Even when I rocked that presentation, I could feel that something was amiss. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you today how to move payers from apathy to excitement and get them onto a path of adoption, because the key to that excitement really means you have to create an interesting and compelling story that keeps them from passing, or even worse, just flat out ghosting you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I would say it's a very, very in demand and necessary strategy for MedTech companies. So I'm going to let you go ahead and do your thing. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, before we start talking about how you get in front of payers and product committees and really drive them to adoption, most people just forget to dig into their product deep enough to answer some of the tougher questions. So to help solve that, I wrote this book. It's called the 10 MedTech Commandments. And you can get it in two ways. You can either go to Amazon if you want a paperback version. Alternatively, you can sign up for my newsletter and you'll get the ebook for free as just a thank you. And I think that this is a great resource in addition to the newsletter that can help people understand how to not just navigate that commercialization journey, but it really helps people ask questions of themselves that sometimes they're not asking. So great resource, would love for anybody to take a look at it, but then also shoot me a message and let me know what you thought. Let me know what landed for you. Let me know what didn't. I'm always interested in hearing. So let's dive in, because at the end of this presentation, I'm going to share the exact system that I've been using to quickly and predictably get payers and policy groups excited. And that's excitement about the problems you solve, and excitement about your solution, and excitement about the payoff that you can deliver. So in short, this is the system that is working right now, and I can promise you has been validated and optimized to work for any type of payer, any type of product within any type of category. All right, so here's what usually happens. You're all excited because you've got a big meeting with a payer product committee, And you start your presentation, and in our minds, it looks like this. This is what we go into. We're starting to present, but unfortunately, by the end of it, all too often we have the experience and walk out and we feel like this. And it's harrowing. It's frustrating. And sometimes it just is a little crazy making. So what we're trying to accomplish is making sure it is not going to be that way. So what I'm going to do is show you how to go from unclear, jargon-laden, snooze-fest presentations to conversations that are complete, they are clear, and they're compelling. And what happens is that they're presentations that are going to convert. Right. And when I talk to other industry professionals, just like you, and when I've done these presentations myself, there are just 5 consistent comments that we all hear. And I'm sure that you've heard them too. And I'd probably say that we hear one or more of them up to 90% of the time. All right. The first thing that as a community we often hear in these presentations to payers, product committees, is that it's too expensive. And this one comes up a huge amount of time, and it's probably the most frequent one that we hear. And you will understand by the end of this presentation what you're doing that may be causing this statement to come out of their mouths immediately upon finishing your presentation. All right, second, this is a big one. We need more evidence this product is going to work. And, look, but different people across the commercial landscape and the government landscape have been telling me this one for years. I've always been working on newer products that have been pushing innovation, and it's very easy for customers to say it's not going to work. But we can solve this one very easily as well. All right, it's not the right time for us. This one's pretty consistent. It's a bit of a delay game. It's for them to accumulate more knowledge and just set the expectation that you can't expect that they're going to adopt you anytime soon. All right, how about there's not enough demand? Nobody is saying they want it. And this one can be a complete fallacy. This one can be one of those things that I call an insincere objection. So that's something that we're going to show you how to solve. And then lastly, we already have a solution for this it's good enough. And that's another one that is easily fixable, and you'll really see why this method is going to be able to ameliorate people saying any of these things at all. So let's take a step back though, because if you're in a presentation to one of these payers, to these potential partners, and this is what you're getting regarding the feedback, this is how you walk out, right? This is how you feel after these conversations. And look, it's easy to get discouraged after this. You could even take their comments at face value, and you could go try to solve them one by one. And that's what most people do. They try to go and address them one at a time and come back later and convince the payer that they were wrong. And that never works. And we have to ask ourselves why. And it's because if they're making these comments in the first place, you didn't set up the conversation correctly. All right, so let's talk about what they really mean when they say these statements. All right, first, when they say it's too expensive, they really mean that you're not clear on the problem to solve, and that you're jumping into what your product does without setting the stage for why the thing is even on the market in the first place. All right, number two, we need more evidence. Everybody needs more evidence, but assuming you've gone through the FDA process and you're thoughtful and have created a credible set of evidence, This, again, is really about them not understanding the problem to solve and understanding the severity level that is causing them to want to evaluate your product using more of a risk-benefit analysis. All right, number 3, it's not the right time. Okay, maybe it's because you're a small company and they're worried that you won't be around that long because you didn't get enough market traction. Alternatively, you could have not shown them what they're going to get out of the adoption of your product. You just haven't shown them the WIFM, the what's in it for me. All right, 4, there's not enough demand. Now, this usually means that you've activated only a couple clinicians. I've even seen companies go to payers before they've activated or created demand with any of their network providers. And that is the kiss of death. If you're not able to show that there is a demand in addition to showing the problem to solve and how severe it is, you're going to struggle. All right, 5th, we already have a solution to this. Now, this just means that you haven't explained clearly enough how your product differs from other solutions, and you haven't laid the groundwork for why the other options are not effective in solving the problem and why the status quo needs to change. All right, so all of these issues are solvable, but they are driven by mistakes people are making when they're preparing for these presentations and then presenting to their customers. So let's go through these mistakes because I'll tell you why they come up. And I think you're going to be able to connect the dots really easily, and you're going to see how fixing these mistakes will lead to less of those insincere objections that you're probably commonly hearing. All right, first mistake, you're overly focused on your product. You dive right in and you tell them about it, and you're just not taking time to bring the problem to life. You know, everybody who is in medical device, the healthcare product space, they're excited about the products that they're working with. They're excited about their companies that they're working for. And that's the kind of passion that we need to carry into these partners like payers. But you can't be so excited that it's the only part of the story you tell. Because when you dive right in and talk about your product, the people you're talking to, they may not be able to connect those dots automatically, and you have to lead them through that part of the journey. All right, second, we've alluded to this. You haven't developed clinical demand. You know, and clinical demand isn't just one person, it's laying the groundwork with a department or with an entire specialty to be excited and say that this is needed and put the payers a little bit on the defensive so they have to respond and react to their network providers. All right, another one. This is the ineffective description of the size or the impact of the problem that is come about by utilizing the status quo treatments and remaining in this situation. And this isn't only about outcomes, it's about workflow. So here's a tip though, you can overdo it and you can underdo it, meaning you can make the problem bigger than it really is, or you can pretend the problem isn't as big as it is. Either one is dangerous, so you want to make sure that you're accurate and you can defend the sizing of that impact when you're talking to this payer audience. All right, additionally, not having a perspective on the adoption plan, it's going to imply to payers that this rollout is not going to be controlled. It's not going to be predictable. You're not going to have metrics for success or failure. And this may be the biggest one that I see from people presenting to payers that they miss out on. Very often they'll come and they will present their solution and the payer audience will be excited. But what will happen is that the company is asking the payer how they think it should be rolled out. And that doesn't inspire confidence at the payer. And it may be a little counterintuitive, but the reality is that the payer wants to hear from you, the medical device company, about what you've learned in the market works the best when you roll these products out. They can't be experts on every single product in the medical devices space. And the reality is you have to lead them. And by framing how they can roll this out in an effective way that is, mitigating risk, it's really important to be able to do that. And then lastly, you just don't have a perspective on the economic impact. And this is potentially implying that this product might be a money pit for that payer. You have to be able to show what the impact on the economics of care is going to be. And I can tell you, I've worked in companies that have a lot of data in this area. I've worked with companies who have near nothing, but at the very minimum, the ability to come through with an economic analysis, even if it's hypothetical, is better than coming with nothing. All right, I said it before, you can fix all of these. And hey, while it'll take some work, it's a straightforward process that you can repeat and perfect and continuously improve to get better and better. But I'm going to say it, you have to know the secret recipe. So what I want to do is show you the exact system that I mentioned at the very beginning that will help you do this. Okay, so here is a clear point A to point B system that's easy to follow. And it's a roadmap that's been proven to help people who are just like you get more interest from your potential payer customers. This is that secret sauce, and you don't need to scramble. You don't need to take notes. This will be available to you. And I'm going to give you a link at the end where you can get it and view it and just download it. But the system has three main phases, and that's the problem, the product, and then the payoff. And what I'd like to do is dig a little bit deeper, step by step, into what this looks like. All right, so the first step is identifying that there is a problem that exists. Now, it's not as simple as just saying, hey, we have a problem. You have to articulate this in a way that is going to grab immediate attention of those payers without using anything that is gimmicky. And the best place to start is often providing a statistic or fact that is, yes, credible, provable, but is also something that is a little surprising to that payer. It's something they don't know. Then you're going to move into describing how it's not okay with how it is today. And this point, you're trying to educate your audience on everything they need to know, and you're trying to get some energy around the idea of them needing to act fast. From there, we're going to describe why the community needs our help. Now, the community is not just one stakeholder, it's the patient. It is the clinician who is providing care. It's the payer who's paying for that care. It is the office staff who maybe is dealing with the implications of these conditions and diseases at the patient level and trying to support and care for them. It's trying to give a 360 holistic view of what the situation is on the ground dealing with patients with this condition. All right, once you've done that, now we're moving into the product phase. And it starts with, we have a solution. Now, notice, this is matching up with exactly that mistake of jumping right into your product without setting the stage. We've set the stage. They feel the energy around a problem that they need to solve. They understand why it's a problem. They've been educated on the status quo and its shortcomings. And now we're going to tell the story of our product. Now, what we're not going to do is give a scientific and technical detail of the product. What we're trying to do is focus on the value proposition and focus on just enough information around how the product works that they understand it. Look, you can follow up later with technical information. And in these presentations, I have absolutely had the experience of being distracted by someone in the back of the room who's a medical director who wants to know how it works. And you have to remember, you're running this presentation, you're in control of this presentation, and you want to make sure you get to the end of it. It's okay to park someone's question and say, hey, that's for a technical discussion, and we can cover that at a later time, but I want to make sure that I get through all of the pieces of information this entire group of stakeholders needs. The next part is describing why we know this is going to work. What is a little bit of that clinical background that's going to show the outcomes that they're going to be able to receive. Now, this is where we bring in the phase and the description of how we might implement this in their system so they understand that we have a repeatable plan that is going to minimize variability and allow them a high degree of predictability. Payers are, at their heart, insurance companies. And insurance companies don't like variability. They like that predictability. And you want to align yourself with the ability to drive that knowledge, that known of being able to get the results you're saying you're getting. That's why payers are so resistant to so many of these conversations. You have to put yourself in their shoes. They're used to a lot of companies coming in and making promises they can't deliver. And you, as a company representative, need to be able to separate yourself from those other people by showing them a process like this that takes them through to allow them to have the control that they really want to. All right, then it's payoff. And what we know is that there's an impact when we get it right. We're going to be able to deliver them something that is going to add to either their bottom line or improve their outcomes and perhaps even their star ratings. Then and only then are you going to present the potential acquisition offer. What is it that it takes to contract with us to acquire this device, to this service, this product, and being able to give them that pricing in the context of the value it provides is incredibly important. All right. And then last but not least, of course, we want to have that call to action, and we want to establish follow-ups so we don't get lost in the shuffle, so we don't get ghosted, and so we don't lose momentum. All right, so that's the top level. What I found is that people not only need the roadmap I showed, but they also need to know how to conduct the analysis, the assessments, the strategy development to answer a lot of these questions. And what I've tried to do is give you a way to rapidly understand how to modify your approach. And look, everybody who is attending this call is incredibly smart. And I can promise you, if you follow what I just walked you through in that main roadmap and do the work yourself, you're going to go leaps and bounds further than what you have before. And that is a spectacular opportunity for each of you. And while I can't promise adoption, what I can promise you is if you use the system, you're going to advance these conversations significantly. What I really want you to do is imagine the opportunity that you have in front of you. You have the opportunity to tell a comprehensive story that explains why there's a big problem that you can solve that others just can't. And what that results in is that you can make that payer or hospital system look great and meet their goals. And at the same time, you're going to meet your goals as well. All right. You know, what I want to tell you just as a final set of parting thoughts is that, you know, the hardest part isn't always knowing what answers you need. It's understanding how to conduct some of that analysis and evaluation to get there. And if that is something you're curious about, what I do and my consulting is I help people through that journey through essentially an accelerator program. It's basically a learning platform and program where you can be guided through that journey, and I'm going to meet with you after each one of those phases. So you utilize the platform, you conduct the analysis that I've laid out for you using the tools that I've provided to you. And then at the end of each phase, you'll get some one-on-one coaching on how to improve it or answer questions if you're stuck. So if that's something you're interested in, you're free to go to this QR code or go to medtechandmindset.com/conference, and you can dig in a little bit deeper on those options. You know, I have a conversation with nearly everyone I take through this. So, you know, you can either add this to your cart or just reach out to me at matthew@medtech-strategy.com, and we can have a conversation to see what your problems are and if this is an opportunity for you to solve them.
Great. Well, thank you for that. And we have a couple questions for you, Matthew.
Fire away.
So it's pretty clear that you're advising these medtech companies to ensure that they're communicating the value of their solution. What advice do you have for companies that are, pretty early in the process, or maybe they've never invested in the health economics?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that what you have to do in those situations is find the stakeholders who are responsible for looking at innovations, right? So in combination with finding the clinicians who are curious and you want to bring into the fold early, you need to start developing a relationship with those people who are in innovation or are leading the charge for pushing the envelope in improvement of outcomes, right? And they may not have something as simple as an innovation title, but it may be someone who is more on that outcomes and analytics side, who is responsible for figuring out how to take a specialty, for example, of, cardiovascular disease and make it better, right? And when you start developing these relationships, it's really about asking the right questions to uncover who those people are. And then going to them and saying, hey, I have an emerging technology that I'm in the process of developing, and I would just love a little bit of your time to show you what this technology is about so I can collect your feedback and we can include it while we're developing this. You have to be transparent. The worst thing you can do is get a payer all excited about a technology. You show up to a meeting and then they're like, wait a minute, time out. Like, is this even available on the market? And you're like, well, no, we'll be available in 2 or 3 years, right? Their time is valuable. Our time is valuable. Just be transparent and develop the relationships over time.
That's perfect advice. Okay, so next question. So I'm sure you encounter this just as we do, that there are some companies with solutions that really are eager to jump in with both feet. They want to propose a full rollout so that they get widespread adoption quicker. So do you recommend that they do that, or do you suggest pilots and working towards pilots?
I think it's very situational and there's not a one size fits all. What I can tell you is I've been at companies that are really well funded. We have a lot of money at our disposal. And when we're launching a product, we can go high on the hog with our marketing spend. We can build a big sales team who can carry the message, and we can go to a variety of different channels, right? And if you have those resources, and many people do, then I think that while you need to be strategic, you can carry on a strategy that is, let's call it multi-level. But one size doesn't fit all, and you can be in a company where you have less resources at your disposal, or frankly, you have questions about the viability of the device in the market, and there are questions to be answered, right? So if you have a lot of money and you know how people are going to react because you've done tons of market research, you've conducted human factors analysis, you've done all of the work in the background, you can place your bets in a bigger way. But man, if I'm still wondering how are people going to respond, if I'm wondering how's this product really going to perform in the market, I think I would start smaller. And one thing about pilots that is always, people resist pilots, right? And they resist pilots often because they think they'll never get out of the pilot. Now, that's not the pilot's fault. That's a collaboration issue where you're not defining the metrics of success effectively enough, right? So it's okay to do pilots, but they can't be pilots that have no KPIs. They can't be pilots that have no goal or limitations on them. You have to go and you have to make some agreements around how many people do you expect to run through this pilot, and what does good look like, and how are we measuring success? If you establish those, pilots can accelerate your journey, not stall it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right. Well, awesome.
Great.
Fantastic information. We appreciate it very much. So in our case, Matthew, as you know, Cultivate Communications is working with medical device manufacturers to help them to build a very strong brand presence to ensure that their information is clearly and concisely communicated via digital mechanisms or printed, whatever is needed, for those presentations that they're making, as well as going to market solutions. So we look forward to the opportunity to talk to any audience members that have a need in the marketing and sales arena. We are a growth marketing firm, so we follow very specific strategies around helping organizations to achieve their growth goals.
Many people will think to themselves that I'm too early to develop a lot of these foundational infrastructures around branding, around the value propositions. And I would just encourage anyone to start that conversation as early as you can, because it really frames out how you go to market and the story you tell. And it's something that I see all the time where people push it to the side and they think it's something they can do last minute. Number one, they can't. But number two, if they would have spent a little time articulating their vision, articulating the value proposition, then what happens is they're able to go out and confirm it or improve it based on feedback in the market as they're marching towards that launch. And it's a powerful tool that you can use that makes your company better. So what I encourage people to do is start having conversations with companies like Cultivate, where they are able to bring them into the fold and start small and grow together, because that is really a huge opportunity for people. And last but not least, I appreciate the opportunity to give everybody this information and just partner with Cultivate on sharing some of the secrets of MedTech and med device.
Wonderful. We appreciate your time today, and thank you everyone for joining. If you'd like to pass along a recording to a peer or colleague, here you have a code for you to scan to do that. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.